that's part of our planning for the future. I mean, we can't force them to stay here if they wanted to move. All indications are that they all really like being part of the exchange and wouldn't want to leave, and we think that they really add something to the place as well. So yeah, that's the plans in terms of those three. And then the coffee shop and the venue itself is all run by us essentially. So
I'd just like to I'd like to thank that guy that just mentioned the recording studios and rehearsal rooms, because I find that a fascinating concept for the culture of Bristol. I didn't know you had one, so thank you. I'll inquire. Cheers.
I saw you've got quite a few plans to kind of obviously do a bit of renovation and bits and pieces to the building and disabled access, that sort of stuff. What's your sort of timescales for that, and what's the impact kind of on your 2-3 year plan? Obviously it could mean you close for a little while.
Well, there's different aspects of it. So the timescale, if this is successful, then it will become a CBS at the beginning of next year. And we would like to, the first part of that, which is probably doing up the outside area, making that more attractive and a better area to have a drink or something to eat, we would aim to try and start that straight away. And then some of the things like the disabled access, changing the access into this room so it's a separate box office, we'll start working towards that. Obviously, some of those are quite big jobs, and we've got to fit them in times when we haven't got loads of stuff on. You know, we don't want to close when there's lots of gigs booked. So our quiet periods tend to be January, so we'll try and get a lot of stuff done there, and then the middle of the summer. So I would think that we'll have a couple of bursts of it and things like that. And then some of the things like the carbon neutral stuff, saving water, solar panels, you know, can happen at any time. So it depends on which jobs they are, really.
Hi, I think it's a fantastic project. I've just been looking at your financial report from 2017, and you have quite a lot of liabilities. So what are your plans to cover the existing debts and liabilities? Because by the sounds of it, you're asking for investment for improvements to the building, but you're in actual debt. So what are your plans to cover the debts that already exist here? I think, is it £1.2 million? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
I'm
you're wrong,
completely
I'm
wrong.
afraid.
Thank you. No, it's good to be clarified. If you've got debts here, what's your plan for managing the current debts?
There's loans outstanding, which are the best part of 100,000. And what most of those are they're not loans we've taken out. They're sort of private loans that we've used for developing the business up to here. So not for general running costs. So as the business goes along, it tends to just about, as Matt said earlier, break even. But there's certain things we've wanted to do over doing up the building in the first place. We've developed the coffee shop, we put in new lighting, sound systems, bits and pieces, and we've borrowed bits of money, either privately, some of it from us or for other private people, or from Carlsberg we borrowed a bit of money, and that's on the books as outstanding loans. So what we would like to do is clear those off so that we have a clean slate for then sort of taking the business into the future.
So using that's
more
separate to the investment that you're asking for.
That's included. It's in the share issue. So there's the majority of what we're asking for is going on to the venue development, but then we're also wanting to clear those outstanding loans.
And it's about 100,000. Right?
100,000.
Not a million.
It's not a million. It's not a million.
It's so dark, I can't read it. I'm just trying to read what it says
Sorry, I think there are a few people waiting, sorry. Hello. I was just wondering if you'd given some thought to what type of community engagement you might do through this period. So obviously this is part of it, but in terms of getting people engaged, there are lots of us obviously who, you know, see the exchange as our home and come here all the time, but it's going to take more than us lot who come down here all the time to raise the funds that you need. So I was just wondering, in terms of engaging the wider community or capitalising on people who already love the exchange, like people here, and kind of really kind of making this a really kind of community-led project.
Well, I mean, a lot of that hopefully is going to come from the people who join the CBS. You know, what we want to do is get more people in the community involved and widen what we do here. You know, I mean, it's a great space. We're open all day from 8 o'clock. All this space isn't used a lot during the day. We want to get more people in. Really, what we want is more ideas, people like you coming forward and saying, hey, why don't you do this and do that? And I think, yeah.
One thing we found when we became a community benefit society is that there's this network of people that love community benefit societies and the way they engage with the community. And we found simply opening a share offer brought people into our community who then enlarged that for us. And we simply engaged with them by opening a community benefit society. There are people that love the way these things work, be they music venues, be they ferry boats. There's a scout hut in Penarth. There's a community that will adopt you and will help you grow in the way of community engagement. And they've brought us some amazing ideas and amazing skills. One of our shareholders that we discovered through that network is an architect, and he's going to be great with us. And so I think simply opening the offer is a massive way of opening community engagement as well.
And I guess this would have been a point I'd make at the end of the Q&A, but anybody who's here today who maybe doesn't want to put their hand up or maybe just wants to have a one-to-one discussion because it's something that would take a bit longer, we are completely approachable. You can email us. We tend to work, there's people here during daytime hours, there's people here who can answer your questions on the evening. I mean, none of us we've learned a hell of a lot in the last 6 months about community benefit societies and community share issues, but you know, none of us are experts quite yet, but we can generally get you the answers that you need. You know, in terms of actually reaching people, actually this has picked up so much good press already. Like, in fact, we got an interview with national newspaper on Friday as well, so it's actually crossing over into sort of a wider sphere of people. And I think it's just about being, you know, what we want it to be. What really draws us to this is the idea that we're going to have this big ball of ideas from this big group of people that just doesn't exist at the moment. We've just got a certain set of ideas, and we're just really excited that, you know, and that's even in this part of the campaign as well. People are saying, have you thought about doing that? We'd love to hear it. You know, like if you know you're investing and you think that we're missing a trick by not engaging part of the community, then, you know, please let us know, because, you know, if this is successful, this is your business as well. This is yeah.
Thanks.
Hey there, guys. I think this is a really good idea. I've been really impressed by it. I'm someone who comes to the exchange quite a lot for one reason or another. Kind of following on from what was said there, the idea of this space being open for a lot of different things, not just through the day but through the evening. Could you potentially foresee a future where, if it was successful and if you were potentially doing even better than you thought you were going to be, that you could potentially then give back to some of the projects that maybe members of the CBS wanted to put forward? Just to give an example, myself and my partner here have just set up a new gig promotions company in Bristol. We understand that potentially financing things like that and putting on gigs isn't as easy as it sounds. Could you find it within you, if this was to work, that if we were to come to you and say we could do with a little bit of help, you might be able to potentially offer us a bit on a financial backing, or is that not really the way this is going to work?
I'm going to try to answer this, and then I might ask Tom to step in if I get this wrong. This is me trying what I've learned about community shares over the past few years. I think that if the profits are made in a CBS, then they need to be reinvested into other CBSs. So that may, unless you became a CBS, that would rule that out from happening. Is that right, Tom?
Sort of. This will slightly relate to what your objectives are, Exchange's objectives are as a community benefit society. So
your objectives, I think, are around the promotion and advocacy of cool and exciting creative music in the Bristol area. And so that means you're quite open at Exchange, being able to spend any profits you might make that meet that broad objective. You don't necessarily have to put them into a CBS, but if you feel that your profits could go to an organisation like a music promoter that are doing similar things to you, then you're open to do that. It doesn't have to be a CBS, but as long as it sort of objectively meets your objectives, then you can do that.
So in that case, the answer is yes. I could see. I mean, if money's there and it's the society is very safe in what's happening, then we would definitely look at things on a case-by-case basis. I mean, and what's actually worth pointing out already is that the hire deal that we do for bringing in promoters, we do a much reduced hire fee for local promoters versus the ones who hire us from big companies in London. So yeah, basically that is actually something that's been in place for at least a couple of years already. So yeah, it's worth noting, and that's something that we would do in the future. And I think also ideas that we've had around local community. We get a lot of touring bands by national promoters where they don't utilise the use of time they've got by, we could have local bands playing during that period to get them in front of new eyes. We want to definitely start trying to do things like that because I think we just owe it to the community. And I also think that actually it does mean that I think we've got more of a mandate to do it now. I think that really helps as well to say, well, we are a community benefit society. If you want to hire our venue, then this is our objectives, and therefore you need to work with us on this. We didn't maybe have that clout before, so I think that will help as well.
Thank you. Actually, whilst I've got the mic, I might ask a few questions, if that's all right. Firstly, I just want to say well done to the whole Exchange team. You have been fantastic in developing both the share offer and share offer document over the last few months. It's been a lot of work, so well done, everybody. But I had 3 questions. One is, where can everybody make an investment tonight? That's quite a leading question because, as you might know, I've been working with the Exchange team on this for a few months. So, the second one is, you guys have a bunch of cool rewards that are associated with the investment. Could perhaps you explain a few of the cool features, and especially how Fat Paul might be being involved? And the third one, somebody asked earlier a little bit about investor and member engagement. I know you guys have plans for a members forum going forwards, and could you just explain how a few of the investors might become more engaged in that way?
Okay, I'll try to share the microphone around on this, the 3-part answer. So, yes, you can go to the Ethex website, that's spelled ETHEX.org.uk/Exchange Bristol. That's where you can purchase shares from. You can also get the downloadable copies of the share offer documents, and I really encourage people to check those out just simply on the basis that I think 2 or 3 people said it's the best share offer document they've ever seen. In terms of, no, I'm not saying in terms of the words that are in it, because we wrote those and we're not that modest, but the design of it was done by a guy, John Minty, he's known as, he plays in the local band Caves, and yeah, it's also nice to mention how we employ so many good musicians from different bands, including a band who's about to go to number 2 in the charts next week. So anyway, I'll get back to the other bits of the question. So the rewards, probably none of us can remember them, but I'm going to pass you the Paul. Oh, there we go. You can just read it out because they involve you.
For some unknown reason, they thought it would be good
What,
for me to DJ people's proposals.
Pay me to not have him do that.
So, if you invest £250, you can get 10% off in the bar. Priority tickets to my shows only. So you probably won't want to go. Invitations to special events, discounts at selected gigs, a goodie bag, which we're not quite sure what's going to go in that. Limited edition screen printed share certificate, and your name on the Investors Celebration wall at the Exchange. Which is probably some dodgy graffiti in the toilets. Oh, you've got to pay more for that. If you invest 500 notes, pounds, right, you get
all that. Plus
you get a T-shirt and a lunch.
You ever read this?
And all the other stuff. Limited edition, yeah, I have read this. Limited edition exchange compilation CD, limited edition special subject compilation CD, and your name scrawled on the toilet wall by me. £1,000 gets you everything from the £500 option, an opportunity to co-produce an event using our venue and expertise, and free entry to count them 10 gigs. Which ain't bad, is it? Right then. So, invest £2,500 and you get our DJ, an event of your choosing, and free entry to 20 gigs.
That's everything from the bank.
Plus everything from the 1,000.
There's a different £2,000.
There's another £2,500 one where you, the band option, where you get to record at Joe's Garage Recording Studio, limited edition run of CDs of the recording, EP launch gig at the Exchange, with rider posters, Enter24 promo package, social media ads, and live photos and short film. If you invest 5,000, you get everything else, plus a silver ticket, free entry to any gig for the next 2 years, and £10,000 gets you the golden ticket. So that's a gig forever, tailored benefits. Please contact us to discuss.
I went on to say, I can't remember what the third question was. Tom.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Paul. Cheers. I thought you were going to be DJing at some of these, for some of your awards as well.
I'll DJ if you really want me to.
Free jazz and black metal.
Yeah, free jazz and black metal, there you go.
The third question was just about how investors could be engaged through your members forum. What are your plans for that?
It's a free part.
I think that with that, it's just that people can, what is it? I don't know actually, but they can come to the members forum. We'll have it sort of once a year or more often, once every few months. That can be decided by the members how long we need to meet. People can decide to be there and they can discuss what we should be doing with the business, how things should change, what, ideas, some of those community ideas that we talked about before, anything like that. It can just be a way, a structure of getting people involved so they can think, okay, I'll come along to those meetings, I can get my point forward. So the fine details of it, we haven't really went at, but you know more about that.
Should have gone in the other direction, shouldn't we? So basically, I'm not sure entirely if we've decided on a number of how many the people would be, but essentially anybody who wants to be part of the members forum can put themselves forward, and then we'll draw the people at random. Those people are going to meet every few months, and then they just feed back what the general members are feeling about what's going on at the exchange, so that we can take those ideas into account for the future months. So it's an extra way of basically feeding back what the community who own the venue are interested in seeing happen at the venue.
Yeah, man.
Sorry to interrupt you. We've just found out breaking news 6 times a year that they 6 people. 6 people. Yeah. So it's a group of 6 people on the members forum.
I was just asking. Is there when's the time? When does the money have to be paid? And is there an answer?
There is an answer. I'll answer that bit first. It runs until the 31st of October. We do have in the small print that says if we feel as though we would hit that target by expanding it another 4 weeks, then we have that open to us. But really, anybody who knows that they want to invest, who has the money to hand, the quicker it comes in, the more likely that other people engage with it. I think there's sort of magical targets that I've been told about, where if you hit a certain amount by a certain point, then people are then going to think, oh, this is going to be successful, because there's a few people who will sit on the fence about it, apparently. So yeah, the quicker the better, but don't go short.
Do you want to tell people that there's been a lot of interest?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell people that, but I mean, the initial indications are that what we've been told by the experts, and we always work, and we always have after 12 years of running venues, that if anything can go wrong, it will happen to us. That's generally our way of feeling about things. So I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but the experts are telling us that actually the pledges that we got were really, really good. You know, like we got to an amount that was kind of, you know, yeah, very good, okay. And, you know, and the initial indications from what's come in today have been good. And, you know, just, yeah, in general, the feeling around the campaign seems to be very positive. So, you know, and hopefully, you know, that does achieve the desired result.
Are you capped at 250,000? So if you get more investment, do you have to stop?
Yeah, so basically, our minimum amount that we have to hit, if we don't hit it, then you will get your money back, is 250. We've capped it at 300, which is actually quite a small gap. Most share offers I've looked at have had quite a big, you know, much kind of bigger kind of gap. Maybe the bottom will be 250 and then the max would be 500. But we just didn't feel like we needed to go beyond our means, essentially. And what we do want, and what Pete alluded to earlier, was that we really, really want the people power. We want the people, you know, like, so we've got things that we can do if we hit that £300 top cap that will mean that people can still get involved. So the first one will be that we wouldn't take the money from Big Society Capital. If, you know, it went so successful, and I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but if it was so successful that we didn't need a penny from Big Society Capital, and we also have in our share offer document that we reserve the right to go to any big investors and say, could you reduce your investment so that we can have more people involved in the society? So really, our most ideal situation would be that basically every single person bought a share for £250, and we didn't have to have, you know, people putting in 1,000 or 2,000. But I mean, obviously, that's fairy tale land. So don't let me put you off of putting in. You know, the main thing, you know, paramount, most important thing is that we get to the 250,000, so that the exchange can continue to exist, and this is a successful project. We'll you know, we'll cross all of these other bridges when we meet them.
I'm here already. Sorry. Hi. So for those of us who maybe want to support the project but can't afford a full share, is there like an angle to just help out in a small way or not? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so what we're doing, first and foremost, is just spreading the word, really. You know, like if you see somebody who you think might have the money, or even if they don't have the money, just sort of saying, have you seen what the exchange are doing? I think it's really good, you know, I feel positive about it. You know, sharing our posts, liking our posts via social media, that's reaching a lot of people. So there's all those things. We're going to do afterwards a Friends of the Exchange thing, because we recognise, you know, it was really difficult for us because we've never asked for charity, and we don't feel this is charity. I mean, there is no gift aid in this. This is an investment. You know, this is a social investment. We didn't feel comfortable asking people just for money that they won't get back, but we now kind of recognise that actually there are people who feel the same. You know, we're people who've given up our own money and our own hours for the sake of live music, and there's other people out there who want to do the same, and we recognise that now. So we are going to do the Friends of the Exchange thing, but that's going to follow the campaign, because we felt as though it'd be a little bit confusing. So you know, at that point people could make donations, and they would know that their donations would be spent entirely on making the venue better. You know, it wouldn't be used for anything weird, or, you know, it'd just be literally to spend to improve the venue. So group membership, I think, is fine up to the point where you have to have a nominated representative. So you know, so I mean, if a band, for example, that might be a scenario that could happen to us. A band of 5 members want to put in £50 each, then that's fine, but obviously there does need to be a nominated representative from that band. If you're a company, then I think the company's name can go down, but yeah, you still need somebody who just one person who represents you at meetings and stuff.
What about joint applications?
Joint applications, I think, are the same. Is that right, Tom? It would be
I might be short on the details, but I think with your offer in particular, you aren't accepting joint applications. But should you have a nominee that wanted to, or should you have an individual you wanted nominated on behalf of 2 people, then that would equivalently serve as a joint application.
This guy's question about if you don't have the money to put in, and so you said there's a friends option that will be launched later. That would you just clarify? Does that mean that the friends option would mean that there would be meetings or whatever whereby anybody could have input?
Yeah. So our idea with the friends at the exchange was that, I mean, we hadn't considered that, and I mean, it's a loose theory at the moment, so it is something that we can bring into it. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, we just want to make sure that the share offer is a successful one. The reason we didn't want to launch it at the same time, and we did consider launching it at the same time, is we just felt as though there might be a bit of confusion, and we didn't want people being subsequently upset that they. I mean, even if you put in the small print or what have you, we didn't want people to feel like, well, I didn't realise I put £25 in and I thought I was going to get a share or what have you. So, I mean, the things that we talked about was maybe like a sort of 10% off in the cafe, and the other thing that was really important to us was we were going to say that if there was a future share option, or for example, things that could happen in the future is that somebody may want their share capital back, and we got people waiting in the wings who want to become part of the society. We'd also, any donation that you made, we would keep as credit. So, if your situation at the moment was, I can only give £25, but in 3 years' time, actually you could afford to put 250, we'd say, well, we recognise that £25 from a few years ago, that can go towards credit towards your member share now. But I mean, possibly it is. I mean, obviously, it would be good to get some feedback from the friends of the exchange, but I mean, they wouldn't get votes in the same way that our actual members would get. So.
I'll shut up on the mic in a minute, but I just thought that this would be a good point to mention social investment tax relief and some of the benefits to that. So if you're not able to afford a £250 investment, there are some good benefits. Can I leave that with you, Matt, or would you like me to give that a go?
You can do it. I'd have to get out the book.
Okay. So this sounds a bit complicated, but there is a potential tax relief associated with investing in exchange venue. It's called social investment tax relief, and what that means is if you invest in this offer and exchange receive advance assurance from HMRC for social investment tax relief, it would mean that any monies that you invested, you would receive a tax relief of 30%. If I want to put that in simpler terms, if you invest £1,000 in exchange, then the taxman, as long as you are paying tax, will give you £300 back. But that is subject to exchange venue receiving acknowledgement from HMRC that you are eligible. I think that's expected to happen in the next month or so.
Yeah, just I think Pete touched on this earlier, but we originally, just through I won't go into the complications of it, but we were actually granted it, but then it worked out that it would be better to actually start the CBS from scratch rather than convert the original company. So the company that runs at the moment, we were originally going to convert it. That was granted the SITR, but then it worked. It was for lots of other reasons. It made sense just to start the CBS now. So essentially, there's no reason. It's exactly the same thing for HMRC to look at. So exactly. I mean, it's fairly assured.
I mean, one of the nice bits for me on that is that if you can't afford £250 investment, you would get roughly £70 to £80 back on your investment, as long as you're a taxpayer as well. So it reduces your effective £250 investment to something like 170.
Is that yearly?
It's one-off.
A one-off. Okay.
So yeah, it's on the initial investment you made.
Okay, if it helps we had to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for our seed enterprise investment scheme, and that came through absolutely fine. I don't think there's many places that actually get turned down for these schemes.
Yeah, Comedia had the same thing. It literally was 3 days before the end of their campaign and it came through. But I mean, we're a bit ahead of that. So.
Ours came through after.
Okay, after the campaign. Yeah.
If the scheme is successful, which I hope it is, does it completely eliminate sort of commercial risk from third-party forces? Let's say, for argument's sake, the Stag and Hounds becomes a luxury hotel. Does that affect in the future? I know it's not going to be, but does something that outside of what you can control affect what happens to the
I guess
venue?
the answer is ultimately no. We have put in our, for the breakdown of the money that we want, we have allowed for some soundproofing to help with that particular issue. Also, the agent of change principle has recently been approved in, I don't know if approved is the right word, but it's gone through in Parliament. So I guess in that case, the fact that they were changing their use would probably, in that particular one with the Stag and Hounds, that actually doesn't protect us, if we're being honest, about that massive block of flats out the back, but there is certainly a grey area with that, because at the point where that one went up, agent of change was sort of, there was a Towns and Planning Act basically. Right. So we feel as though we've got enough evidence on our side with that one, but it is also student flats, so I mean, they tend not to sort of care too much. Yeah, in some ways, they bring in more than they take away. There is another big development going up around there, and we have the Music Venues Trust actually objected to that at the point that happened and made it. And so it's happening, but it's under they have to actually, put in. Yeah, so agent of change, in case anybody doesn't know what that is, it's just essentially where it's the person who's making the change is responsible to make sure that they're suitable living conditions. So, if for example I move a venue into a terraced street, then the people there can say, well, this is completely unacceptable. The venue would probably likely be closed down, and or we'd have to put in hundreds of thousands of pounds into soundproofing. So, and it works the other way now, whereas it didn't in the past, even in the very recent past, and that's crazy, right? That's just common sense, surely, that you shouldn't just be able to put up a block of flats next to a music venue and then expect that that you shouldn't have to soundproof it to make your residents happy. But that is what it was up to literally maybe a year ago, maybe less than that. So.
Yeah, I think some people see it as protecting the venue from external forces as well as keeping the culture going within the facilities.
And I think one thing as well is that just being a community benefit society, being a business that serves the community, there's certain little things that are going to go on your side when they're considering these things. They say, well, actually, you're complaining about this venue, but they're there to serve the community. I can't say for sure that that's the case, but it certainly isn't going to help, is it? It isn't going to hurt. Sorry. We've got 5 minutes left, by the way. So, just to reiterate, we will all be around afterwards. You can probably tell from who's been talking the most, who tends to know. I've been very involved in the process. Pete knows a bit more, but that's the thing is, in a very serious point. We've had to run the venue whilst this has all been going on, and this is a very, very difficult and very time-consuming process. And it's literally, essentially taken me out of the day-to-day running of the place, and it's taken Pete out of some of the day-to-day running of the place. And we've tried to keep everybody, but it's a complicated, long process. So everybody knows roughly what's going on. We know what were the objectives, but when you get into the very nitty-gritty, perhaps me and Pete are good people to speak to. But if you're just generally asking, oh, where's the money going? The other directors will know about that. So.
Time for one more question?
Yeah, I think we've got probably a couple more.
As you guys are all directors of the company, so what majority of shares will each director hold? The same.
Yeah.
So one share,
yeah.
And each person that purchases tonight or throughout the week will also have one equal share?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird technicality because actually, and I can see Tom putting his hand up, but I didn't even realise this until yesterday. We do own more shares, but shares, the amount of shares you have still equals one vote, because it's one member, so one member, one vote basically. So if I put in more money, it doesn't mean I get any more say than somebody puts in £250. It's just a technicality.
Ultimately, someone will need to make a final decision about changes and plans and everything else. So what's your idea on how that's going to?
So the democratic process of a CBS is essentially, in the first instance, we're giving you our share offer document, and that's saying what we're going to do up until October 2020, which is sort of our mandate to do that essentially. At that point, there'll be elections where all of us have to stand down from our role. We can seek re-election, and anybody else who wishes to become a director at that point can put themselves forward, and at that point discuss how they're going to put it forward at that point. So in the first, their ideas of how to develop the exchange from there. So I imagine most of us will probably seek re-election at that point. But I mean, if you guys don't like what we're doing, then that's what we're giving up in becoming a CBS, other than a CIC. If you don't like what we're doing, we're gone. So essentially, we can be voted out. So.
Yeah, our board are stepping down in October, and I think half of them are running for re-election, and then we'll be re-electing directors then from the shareholders. And it doesn't matter if the shareholders put in 5,000 or 350, they have every right to stand for that election. So, I mean, I used to own La Pub, it was mine, I built it up, and when we went to a CBS, I completely relinquished control. At any point during an AGM, I can be not elected, and that's a risk that these guys are taking with their business. And I think that it's really important that, I don't really know where I'm going with this other than the fact that this is yours once it's a community benefit society. It's not theirs anymore, it will belong to all of you, and you will all have democratic say, and everything is done so democratically and legally. And that's the main reason we chose it, is because it's an amazing thing. It literally puts your music venue in your hands. And you should probably re-elect the people that are doing it if it's going well, but if you don't think it is, then you have a chance not to. So it's a bit rambly, but I think I got across what I was trying to say.
I don't so much have a question, but I have an observation to make. It seems to me, it's much more important than just the saving of a venue in Old Market. What we're really looking at is how we run our society better, and in a city where increasingly the city is increasingly dominated by corporate power and money, this represents the taking back of control. And in my estimation, the Community Benefit Society is perhaps the best model for us to restructure the way we do things so that people actually have control over their own destiny. And I think that's important to just bear that in mind.
Thank you. I think we're pretty much out of time. Is there anybody who still wanted to get a question in, or is that a good time to cut off? That was a good closing thoughts. I don't have to make any myself. So. Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, we're all around afterwards. Come and speak to us. There's loads and loads of information in that share offer document. I think it's at least 20 pages long, so there's a lot of answers that you can find in there as well. Okay. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Thanks very much.